welcome to CFRE. We're here with Lex Leosis right before her new album, Don't Get Hurt. It's dropping tomorrow, correct? Is it
That's
tomorrow?
right, tomorrow.
How are you feeling?
I feel great. I'm so excited. I haven't dropped an album in 6 years, so this is a big deal
Wow,
for me. Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. And I did get the privilege of listening to it myself. It's really good.
Thank
I'm a
you.
big fan. What do
Aw.
you want people to know about Don't Get Hurt a little bit ahead of time? Like what to listen for, themes, skills, stuff that you're kind of proud of?
Mm-hmm. I think sonically the album takes a really interesting journey through kind of like old school hip hop sounds into like jazz and funk and trap influences. So we've really built the album as like a full listening experience. I think in the world of like singles and everybody taking in music individually, we really wanted to bring back kind of like the concept of the full listening experience as an album. So super stoked about that. And then I think theme wise, you get a ton of themes around insecurities, kind of working through the concept of don't get hurt both ways, like me don't get hurt and like you don't get hurt. So yeah, there's a ton of themes around like my insecurities, overcoming that, some braggadocious rap shit too on there as
Of
well.
course. Come
Yeah.
on. I think it's funny. That was one of my notes is like theme of insecurity. It's present, but like almost would describe it more as almost vulnerability. There's a lot of like just you expressing yourself and like you're saying in all these different ways. Do you think like, and now this is honestly my 6 years since your last album, was it kind of uncomfortable kind of getting in that bag, especially as a rapper? I mean, hip hop, of course, there's room for emotion, there's room for that expression, but I think it's almost easier to get off like your confidence stuff, especially when you're seasoned. How was that process trying to like force yourself to really open up?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, like you said, the like braggadocious bag is a pretty easy flex, and it feels comfortable. I've come from like a cipher background, so that feels really easy. This was really hard for me. I'm a pretty private person, so to just put that all out there felt really difficult. And then on top of that, the crew that I make music with in Los Angeles is like an all male room. So I had to
Oh
kind of
man.
touch in a lot of these insecurities. And so many of them are focused around like my experience as a woman. So I really had to like take a room full of men through it as well while I was doing it. So yeah, it was definitely uncomfortable. Really cool though. A lot of my best friends were in the room and they were just really supportive and pushed me a lot to get uncomfortable. So I thought that was great.
Yeah, and I mean like that feminine in femininity. I
Mhm.
always struggle with that word. Feminine.
No
That
reason.
it's clear in the album, and I think like female voices in rap and hip hop have like had almost a little bit of a renaissance in a underrated, under the radar way. I really appreciate like, of course, there's been a lot of female rappers like doing like a lot of a New York sound, but you're from Toronto, from my
That's
knowledge.
correct.
Yeah. We're from Toronto, and I hear it a little bit in your music, but I also like I hear bits of boom bap, a little bit of influence there. How is
Mhm.
like Toronto like, and being like a female rapper from Toronto? Because I like there's a lot, but I wouldn't say there's someone super definitive in that
Mhm.
lane. How is it like in your sound? Like you want to reflect that, you kind of want to represent the city as a female from the city.
Yeah, it's cool because I feel like the women from the city in hip hop, and there is a ton, and to your point, I don't know that there's been like a a woman who has broached the subject like kind of like
Yeah,
Drake has or something
yeah,
like that. But like Mishi Me has definitely been kind of like the first to breach like the border and that sound and have hit records. And then there's tons of women underneath her who have continued that legacy. It's been interesting. Toronto, I always say, is low key collaborative. Like we are competitive because it's a small scene and there's not a lot of
hmm
structure here.
yeah,
But I think we need each other. So the women in the city have been like so like arm opening and just like really working together. And I come from an all female rap group, the sorority.
Sorority, yeah.
Here, yeah. So it's been really great. But like anyone, Toronto gets really small after a while, and you start traveling and you pick up different sounds. And I spent a lot of time in the Bay Area, in LA, and so much time in California. So that started to influence and shape my sound. And then I continued to meet a lot of instrumentalists and really taking kind of making music in my room off of like laptop
Yeah.
sounds and really branching into like more musicality and working with instrumentalists and then learning piano and a little bit of bass myself and starting to get into music theory. So that was really kind of where I'm heading with my music is
Yeah.
shaping more into that musicality.
Well, like, yeah, collaboration is so important in the genre. I mean, like, I did hear about the sorority. You guys just
Mhm.
had that remix with Hawaii Mighty
That's right.
on that song. And then even like the lead single was Bongo Bandana. You put someone else on that lead single.
That's right.
Um, I think like in such a competitive genre, it's not really like other genres in that sense. There is almost like that cypher background and like
Mhm.
posse cuts from the mid 2010s are really popular. Like,
That's
how does that collaboration, you spoke a little bit to it, but like just sharpen your craft and like motivate you as like an artist to like take from other people that you're working with? Where is that like present in the album a lot?
Yeah. I think collaboration has always been a piece of hip hop that has drawn me into the genre. I think like more than any other genre that I can think of, hip hop has always been rooted in collaboration. And I've been in many groups, and
Yeah.
especially when I'm making my albums and when I'm making my music, it's still a collaboration, even if I'm the only artist on the track. Like there's a producer and an engineer and
Yeah.
instrumentalist, and it can feel very collaborative. As far as collaborating with other rappers, that always pushes my pen.
Hmm.
Especially coming from the cipher background, that collaboration is always rooted in this like it's competitive, like friendly competition,
Yeah.
and sometimes like not so friendly competition too. Like I have some friends that like we really take that shit seriously, you know. And so when I'm like rapping with like Call Me Stevie Ray, I did a project with, or the sorority, or like Bongo Bandana, like that's always pushing my pen to as far
It's
as
so
it can
fun.
go.
It's such a fun part.
So fun, yeah. And I think just makes me a better rapper. Honestly,
Of
I
course.
if
Yeah.
I took that collaboration out of my process, I feel like I would have been stuck at a very mid level for a long time.
Yeah, and like even like transitioning a little bit to like stylistically what is
Mhm.
present on the album. One thing I actually noticed, and I wasn't really expecting it because I heard Big Bully, and then obviously Dom was able to, my manager was able to send me the album, and like I was able to hear it in full. And like my favorite song was like Call Out My Name or like Say So.
Yeah.
Those like hooks are so like addicting, and like I think as a rapper, it's obviously you're really good at that part of the like the rapping part, but when it came to hooks, like you clearly showed a lot of like growth and like commitment to the what is that like how do you find that hook and like find something that you're comfortable with sitting on a beat? Because I feel like a lot and you hear a lot of rappers talk about how like a verse they can just come in, it's different for anyone, but they'll kind of find a flow to sit on. I
Mhm.
think melodies can be almost a little trickier to find that like real that hit type of
Yeah.
melody. Like me personally, calling my name, I came back to it in my Dropbox a couple times because it was so like it was in my head. How is it finding those hooks to put
Yeah.
on those songs?
That Call Out My Name is actually an interesting one. So my friend Harry J, who's an incredible singer from California, I really wanted to sample his voice. And so we had him play his guitar and sing at the same time. And we recorded that part. And then Wyatt Woodley, who's the producer on that song, spun his voice into the hook and sampled it, which was really cool. But finding like in some of the other ones, like the Weeds or Say So, like any of the ones
Hmm.
that I'm kind of singing on, that has been a big journey. Like coming from being a rapper into like knowing that singing was a part that I needed to
Yeah.
hear at some part, because I feel like that just, again, it's moving towards like the musicality of the instruments. Learning piano was in music theory more,
Hmm.
was really great for me. But I knew I needed to get to a level of singing that I could at least like
Yeah.
put out a hook, you know? And that part has actually become one of the easier parts for me now. I do a lot of writing for others as well, and for TV
Oh,
shows
nice.
and movies and stuff. And the musicality part, it's just like those things that you hum while you're washing dishes or
Yeah.
doing something, you know, and you're like, that would be a good hook idea. So that part's a lot of fun. It's something that is continuing to motivate me to like get better in that area.
Yeah.
And knowing that that's where the, I guess, mainstream effect would come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I always love, I mean, the Call My Name works so great. Like, of course, love the sample, but I do love, like, an artist sometimes taking the hook into their own hands, especially in like a vulnerable project like this, because it does add that personality. I mean, like looking back, a great example I always think about is like Mac Miller would do his own hooks, and like people would complain about his singing not being all that, but I always thought it was the charm it added, that musicality. You really see an artist come through like personally, and it like connects to specific songs. Some songs just don't work with like somebody taking that moment and
You're
that
so right.
cohesion. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
you're
think
right.
that's why harnessing that tool sometimes, like, it was cool to see that, like, you did get in your bag, kind of do something uncomfortable, singing is a little
Yeah.
embarrassing sometimes, but when you actually like lay something down, it works so well. And I really appreciate that on this project.
Yeah, you're so right. I think that's a great thing. And I've talked to a lot of like trained proper singers, and there's some that are on the project or contributed to the project. And to your point, sometimes like missing a note or like, yeah, singing something maybe that's like a slightly off pitch, it has
Yeah.
charm, you know. To your point, it's like it feels personal. And we were actually talking about this recently um in the confines of like AI music, and how like AI
Yeah.
music can't figure that out. It's going to hit it perfect
No.
every time, but you're going to miss those like voice cracks or the little pitch being off, or those are the parts that listeners connect to.
Well, yeah, music's just so soulful. Like, it's like
Mm-hmm.
when people talk about AI music, it's just a complete like misunderstanding of anything. And
Absolutely.
that, like, you can't get emotion or vulnerability in that stuff. It's just a copy. And like, I think it's so important now, like, even like when you mention stuff like cohesion and like how you wanted to create an album experience, like I see people talking about listening to albums on shuffle, and it grinds my gears personally as someone who's like into music. It's like, guys, they spend time doing this. Like
Right.
Saba, artist I
Mm-hmm.
really like, he was talking about his last project, how his favorite part is the arrangement. And I think like
Right.
the arrangement is so important. I mean, on this one too, where the first song literally named Insecure, and
Mm-hmm.
then been that bitch right after,
Yeah,
juxtaposition kind of a little bit. It
exactly.
adds so much to the experience to listen front to back. And
I
how have
agree.
you like how have you worked on that arrangement? Like, what, how do you get yourself to be like, okay, finally this is the one, this is the way I want it arranged?
Yeah, to your point too, I listen to so many artists that take the time to do that, like Dochi and Frank Ocean
Yeah.
and Saba, and like people who are putting together Tyler, like full projects, right? And it was hard. My manager and I went back and forth for a long time about the order, and I had one that I was pretty set on, and then you get all these other opinions, right? And so I think there's like two ways to kind of tell a story, and that's like really literal, like through the timeline that it
Yeah.
happened, and then the other one, that's more of a listening experience. And to your point, like we thought about things like Insecure and Been That Bitch being right beside each other, and
Yeah.
how almost jarring that was, but in a good
Mhm.
way, in a way that like sparks the listeners attention and mind. And like, how do we, in a world that is trying to cram music into 20 seconds and 30-second
Yeah.
reels, TikToks, how do we continue to get people to listen to full bodies of work? So it wasn't easy, but we did come to a lot of great discussion, and I think listening through it a bunch of times and kind of just like sitting in my living room and putting it on the speakers,
Yeah.
like, and rearranging it and having people's opinions. And then we finally came to what I felt was like the perfect one.
Yeah, and I mean, you did a great job cutting it down to 10 songs. I'm sure you had other ones you were thinking about putting
Yes.
on there. That must have
Yeah,
been a
it
tough cut.
was. It was.
Um, Going forward,
Mhm.
Lex Leosis, you drop Don't Get Hurt Tomorrow.
Mhm.
What is your how are you feeling in terms of like overall reception? Is there stuff that's still like unturned? Are you feeling really like complete with this album? Do you have other stuff you're trying to put out? What are you feeling coming to this like important date in your career going forward?
This kind of just feels like the beginning. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I've been rapping for, over 15 years now, and I was putting out just consistent singles, and this is kind of like the first album in a while, and like I plan to put out another one.
good.
I don't have a timeline for that, but we're already working on it. And yeah, this just more shows, more music. I've been dropping like kind of like free verses and freestyles a lot
Yeah,
on my socials, and I'm coming to a point in my career where like I'm catching like a second wind, and I feel
good.
really
Yeah.
inspired again, and I feel really connected to my music and to hip hop in general and the Toronto scene. So this just feels like the beginning.
Of course. And it is one of those moments in your career. I find a lot of small like artists who are really working on building out that career, getting stuff out there can be so hard because you want it to be so like perfect and whatever. And like it is awesome to see you putting something out for people who have been watching your reels, and I see you on Instagram reels like doing those verses and stuff.
Yeah,
It's cool to finally get like a body of work that like represents where you are right now. And
absolutely.
um honing that like craft and like training that craft. The
Exactly.
now that you've done this one, the next one you'll probably feel even better about, even though
Absolutely. It only gets
we're so proud of this one. Come on,
yeah.
like this one's been
No,
great.
for sure,
Even
but it
the
gets better. To your point, it
Yeah,
just gets better with time.
it's hard not to get excited for even like exploring different avenues like mixtapes as a rapper, stuff like that, ciphers. It would be cool to see a freestyle somewhere, like see
Did
what you
Brody
got in the
did Brody tell
bag.
you that's kind of the direction the mixtape direction is coming? So
Yeah, fun because those
yeah,
are awesome. I love a good mixtape, especially when someone's hungry, like
yeah,
when somebody wants to
exactly,
really show off that pen, it hits different. Some of those best
exactly.
mixtapes are from early careir, right?
Yep. So
Um,
that's where we're going next. So I'm excited to put that out there for sure.
Anyways, Lex, given me a lot of time. I won't hold you too much longer. Is there anything else you want to get off before I let you go?
No, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, don't get hurt tomorrow, March 20th.
Come
Very
on, yeah,
excited.
tune in. We'll
Yeah, and
spread the word.
yeah, please do, and we'll see you soon. I really appreciate